Great. So welcome everyone to the Critical Romani Studies Journal, Romani LGBTI Feminist Movements and Scholarship Special Issue launch. It is a great honor for me to talk about this great work. I have to address that only two of us could sit now here, which means physically we are male, but this doesn't mean that much. Because others are also hopefully will join online soon, and they will also talk about the special issue and about the articles. So I have to address that this journal work took more like two and a half years, and finally we did it. And you can see on the cover is Daniel Baker artwork, the Romani LGBTI flag. So it is a great honor to have as a symbol of our Romani LGBTI movement on the cover. So just I would like to have few words about my intro words in the journal, and after I would like to give the space and the floor to Arman and also Justyna, who is here, and hopefully later on will join to us Laura Corradi as well, David Tischer and Isaac Blake. So this present recognition, this journal, is the results of pioneering Romani LGBTI scholars, activists, cultural professionals, and our supportive alliances. To challenge the status quo is a collective aim where Romani LGBTI people, people of color, racialized communities, feminists, sex workers, stigmatized communities with AIDS and HIV, and people with disabilities must stand together and demand back, not asking our fundamental human rights. In 2022, Romani women still objectified, sexualized, and forcibly sterilized. Romani transgender people are raped, abused, and excommunicated. Romani people who live with disabilities are dehumanized and marginalized. Romani LGBTI people are victims of LGBTI-phobic motivated hate crimes and discourses inside the movement, and discourses in heteronormative Romani society within Romani and LGBTI movements, respectively. Romani LGBTI people face and resist intersectional oppressions, internalizations, normalized public shaming, and scapegoating. They are violated and excluded intersectionality because of our identities or characteristics as people with disabilities, social class status, intragroup differences, gender identities, sexuality, age characteristics, or any other intersections of this. Taking the pride as a Romani LGBTI person, but recognizing my privileges as a cisgender man, I was delighted to find that there are coalitions and places and spaces as well in the cross movements, which should preserve a safe place and place, even though we share similar forms of social exclusions, oppressions, and violations. Although there are tensions between academic and activist movements in the movement and academia, our joint aim is to promote social change together. However, Romani and non-Romani identities, gender identities, sexuality, social class status, and life experiences shapes the movements and drives and expectations, therefore the results of our movements. We have to appreciate and respect each other's identities, characteristics, and boundaries, not to hurt, shame, or violate one another, nor reinforce the structures of social oppressions. In order to critically analyze the Romani LGBTI movement's leadership, representation, and visualization, it is essential to acknowledge Romani LGBTI members' academic knowledge production, cultural, and life experiences. The embedded position of alliances, even with supportive intentions, risk to recolonize the representations of Romani, Romani LGBTI, and Romani feminist movements, and Romani feminists. Romani LGBTI, non-Romani LGBTI voices and knowledge can undermine our visibility and the movement. The politics of recognition and epistemic justice requires the privileged not to direct the representation and knowledge production of the vulnerable, for the simple reason they have never experienced the reality of Romani LGBTI people or Romani women. Romani LGBTI people are not simply our commentators or members of activism, as our alliances often quoting us. Vanishing our knowledge, representation, and visibility is clearly epistemic violations. We have to shape our movement, and we have to bring knowledge for our community and shape our future. So with these notes, Martin, is Justyna here?
Justyna and Laura are online, yeah.
Okay, so it is my great privilege first to welcome Laura Corradi.
Hi,
Laura, I will just introduce you in 3 minutes, in 1 minute, and you will have like 5-7 minutes maximum to talk about your about your paper, right? So Laura Corradi is a traveler, scholar, and activist who carried out research action on women's health and prevention of illness in low-income and ethnic communities with refugees and in indigenous context. She graduated in political science at Padilla University, and she earned her PhD in sociology from the University of California, Santa Cruz, where she also taught feminist theory and the sociology of sexualities. Presently, she works in India for the UNESCO Chair for Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment. Thank you very much for being with us, Laura, and please, the floor is yours.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes? You can hear me? Because
Yes.
I have a return.
Yes,
okay. Okay, it's a great pleasure and an honor for me to be here with all of you today. And in these days, actually, as decolonial feminist queer lab, we're doing a lot of initiatives on anti-gypsyism, which is increasing with, obviously, with economic crisis and with the war and with more aggressivity in society and in politics. So we're doing a lot of meetings on anti-gypsyism, sexism, and LGBTQI phobias. With specific targets. So we realized that, doing initiatives like 360 degrees, then you don't really talk in a transformative way with anybody. So we are talking to students or to administrators or to social workers or to groups and associations of obstetrician, gynecologists, etc. So we are finding that this is a good way to have a transformative experience, and Roma women teaching, not listening, but teaching to students, to social workers, to administrators, to associations of Gagé white people, which are the problems and how they can be solved and how there could be a process of participate solution. So in this work, I talked about queer gypsy activism, and I'm not going to summarize my work, just to make a connection so that those who are here with us today can go home at least with one idea of my work. And that the idea is that we cannot struggle for democracy without practicing internal democracy in our own communities. So the struggle, as Soraya Post was saying this morning, the struggle for Roma rights, Roma gypsy travelers' rights, are human rights. In this way, the democracy is not complete without the contribution of Roma, Gitanas, traveler people. And in our own communities, it's important to face issues of sexism and LGBT phobias. It has been done in other oppressed communities. I think about Native American communities. I think about Adivasi, Dalit communities in India, where I spend most of my research time since the last 30 years. And in New Zealand by the Maori people. These so-called ethnic minorities are kept to the margins. And very often they're able to find solutions that can be taught to the rest of society. So I believe it's important to spread our issue of critical Romani studies. I found also all the other contributions really appealing and important. I'm just sorry that could have been published 4 or 5 years ago, but it took very long time to get published, and I understand all the problems, political problems, economic problems that are concerned to the publication of an issue on feminism, LGBT, queer activism, and it's a big part of the struggle against anti-Ziganism, anti-Gypsyism. The two are connected, are deeply connected, and the more we are able to look at the intersections, the more we are able to create coalitions, social coalition, and intersectional alliances. So I will just stop here. Don't want to take more time than the 5 minutes I've got, and I'm really curious to hear from the other authors of our issue. And I think it would be great to present the papers in the issue in a video where we can share few slides, each piece can share few slides with the general public in order to make clear that there is a commitment on this type of topics, which are always kept at the margins, the margin of the margin. But as I said, we cannot struggle for democracy without practicing internal democracy and facing this and solving these problems. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura. Thank you very much again, and thanks for your very, very high contribution in the journal. So please read her article in the journal. The title, Effective Politics and Alliance in Queering the Gypsy and Facing Anti-Gypsyism in the LGBT Milieu. And the next presenter will be Arman Heljic. Correct, good. So he's a PhD candidate at the University of Gothenburg, and he is actively engaged in the global and local activist debates around race and sexuality. His research focuses on mapping counter-narratives and decolonizing strategies against colonial, racist, sexist, and homo, lesbo, bi, transphobic violence against Romani communities by following contemporary art, artifacts and artists in several European countries. And he is also teaches postgraduates and undergraduate students on masculinities, critical studies, race studies, and queer studies.
Thank you.
So please.
Thank you. So I don't know if you hear me well. I will try to introduce this article, which is titled Staging the Romani Queer Revolution, New Approaches to the Study of Romani Queerness in 5 minutes.
You can tell that as well.
So the basic motivation for writing this article has been actually something, has been a frustration and has been anger. That has been cooking up inside of me for a very long time because of the fact that I didn't really see for many years the things that I would like to have read when it comes to Romani LGBTQI issues. And the things that I read very often is there are great things that have been done, but at the same time, the analyses that I have been seeing have produced a lot of victimhood within Romani LGBT communities. So when we see or hear issues related to Roma LGBTQ people, we very often think about negative things, which means then that the lived experience of Romani LGBT people is only or mostly been bad. It is for many of us, depending on the degree of privileges that we have managed to accumulate over our lives, more or less privileged or disprivileged. But I wouldn't really say that it is a community of people without a voice, a community of people without agency. And this is what this paper actually tackles. It tackles agency in a little bit of a different way by analyzing performance or a theater play called The Roma Army at the Maxim Gorky Theater in Berlin, that has been traveling around very nicely through several European countries. And I had the privilege of seeing it in Stockholm and Berlin. And seeing this has been a dream come true for several reasons. The first being it is a play that actually goes into the depth of the of Romani LGBT issues being inherently transnational. My peers somewhere from Hungary or from Germany or from Spain or from other countries all face extremely similar situations. And prior to this point, it has been a little bit impossible to approach this transnational aspect of oppression in a way that it would unconventionally link parts of Europe that have been previously not linked, the North and the South, the East and the West. But what this paper actually analyzes is the counter narratives that Roma artists on the stage actually utter themselves. It utters the ways in which Roma live through the pain of multiple segregation, multiple oppressions, but it doesn't stop there. It goes further because our lives actually, they go further. There is life beyond. What happens is the question. What happens after being hurt? What happens after being angry? And that is oftentimes where I saw the gap. Is that research stops? Is there life actually when you are queer and Roma? And the answer is there is. But we need to change the way maybe of looking at this life. And this is what the paper actually tries to do. And I try to suggest the ways basically in which it has been done in this play. And I have been looking at the discourses on representation, self-representation, and self-envisioning. Self-envisioning is a concept that I started thinking about by reading some prominent queer theorist works such as Jose Esteban Munoz or his PhD student Joshua Letson, who respectively actually look at what happens and how do minoritarian subjects see themselves by disidentifying or by looking for more life, as Joshua suggests. for me to come to the point where I suggest this self-envisioning because of the fact that it is not a responsive method. It is not a method to someone telling you that you are a dirty faggot on the street and that you are a gypsy, which makes this very complex because then it is an issue of anti-gypsist homophobia, right? Which goes very deep. But self-envisioning actually looks into what happens when I don't react to that. Who am I as a person? And this is what the play to a huge degree actually does. And it brings us, I will conclude,
take your time,
to a point where it creates spaces for healing. And I think that we need to think, and we have the responsibility of creating these spaces for healing, because being a minority within a minority is very hurtful at moments. And I think that some of us have this very beautifully generated space that we have fought for in order to create actually a space for the generations to come and the ones that are living now, actually to think about who they are without someone from outside telling them who they are. So I will stop here and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Arman, and thanks for this gap-filling work. So I think our society, I mean, not only Romani, but all the society, need this kind of critical knowledge and representation, which you brought into this journal. And please quote it wisely, Arman's work. make visible him. So our next presenter will be Justyna Matkowska. Justyna, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Super. So I will just introduce you in few sentences, and then the floor will be yours. So Justyna Matkowska is a scholar and activist. She is a PhD in humanities from the University of Wrocław, Poland. She has earned her BA and MA in literary studies from the University of Wrocław. She also graduated from the postgraduate Romani Studies program at the Pedagogical University of Krakow, Poland, and the Hawaii English Language Program at the University of Hawaii in the USA. So, Justyna, please present your paper, thoughts, work in 5, 7, 8 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon. Welcome. And I'm also, first of all, I'm truly honored and pleased to be here. And my name is Justyna Matkowska, as Dezso said, and I'm associate at Mandel Center at Advanced Holocaust Studies at United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. And my analysis, my paper discusses the key findings on my research on representation of Romani women in contemporary Polish and Romani literature. My research aimed to reveal the process of shaping the description of Romani women in Romani literature and Polish literature. And research is significant because it tends to depend on the understanding of Romani imagology, as well as promoting the discourse of Romani literature studies. And my analysis of the images of Romani women in Polish and Romani literature between 1956 and 2016 showed similarities and the differences in Romani woman image in the writing. And both Polish and Romani literature show the feelings and reactions that Romani woman provokes among Polish and Roma themselves, and also both reference the phenomenon of the mythization, idealization, and stereotypization of the images of Romani women, and also consolidation of their cultural patterns as wives and mothers. And It's also important to mention that the visual representation of Romani women in literature does not have not changed over the time. It's the same in literature, and the differences are evident in approaches to traditions and Romani cultural taboos. So in Polish literature, there's objectification. Oh my God, there are objects of literature, and also Polish literature show the sexuality of Romani women and the description of harm and painful detachment from traditions, dignity, and respect, and also in Nazi extermination camps during World War II. And those stress directly the cultural taboo. So authors who are representatives of the Romani culture are subject of intragroups rules, Romanican rules, and their perspective on cultural perspection is Romani, and therefore their internal, which results the total omission of banned topics and non-violation of taboo issues in the literature. And important is also to mention that Romani literature focus on self-representation and issues of identity and also cultural memory of Roma. So Romani prose and poetry reflects on Roma reality and creates idealized images that are directed to Polish audience, and it's a conscious process of mythization of specific threats to show other communities, other nationalities, the culture and existence of Roma as beautiful, colorful, and idyllic. So Romani literature became a weapon which fights the negative stereotypes and prejudice, but at the same time creates the myths targeting Roma themselves as community. It's a vision of idealized caravans reality and nomadic lifestyle. And this existence takes on features for the Romani community. And since Roma are no longer traveling in Poland, and there are, of course, some traditions disappears in the centuries old traditions disappeared. This experience it's preserves in the literature, and it also preserves them in collective memory to maintain the identity for future generation of Roma. And so maybe I will just end on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Justyna, for your excellent work. So we invited more scholars as well, but unfortunately couldn't join. But just in few sentences, I would just highlight that in the journal you can read an article also about Romani women, Romani queer women, intersectional inequalities, written by Ahmad Al-Kurdi. And also you can read an article about the cultural genocide and Romani women oppressions, written by David Szöke. Also, we have 2 book reviews. One book review is about The Gypsy Boy by Mike Walsh. We had presentation today about this book, and the book review written by Silvia Cittadini. And also we have a book review in the journal about Laura Corradi's work. She wrote a book about gypsy feminism, intersectional politics, alliances, gender, and queer activism. And we have 3 shorter articles as well in the arts and cultural section. One is a Daniel Baker article where he describes the her history of the Romani LGBT flag. So this flag is Daniel Baker artwork actually, and this artwork is from 2016, if I'm right. And then also you can read speech by David Tischer. So David Tischer is director of art, and he was one of the main founder of Romani LGBTI movement in Europe, let's say. And his organization focusing on Romani LGBTI representation and equality in Czech Republic. And in this journal, you can read the original speech which he gave in 2019 at the Critical Romani Studies Conference. And also we invited to the journal to Isaac Blake, who is from Welsh, and he's talking about his work and experiences in Romani arts, dance, and advocacy in action. And he's giving also a self-narrative. So this is our work, and hopefully you will enjoy and quote it. And then please ask questions from us. Thank you very much. And thanks to Marton Rövid, who was a great alliance as always, and he went through with us on this long journey and assisted us and did all the dirty background work. So thanks. Questions? Comments also.
I'm okay with that. Thank you all for sharing your work. I can't wait to read this. I just wanted to ask, because I know this is a unique gathering, what do you see as the future of the scholarship, and what more can be done, and what do you see the areas, and even on a more basic level, like what should we have a name? Is it Roma LGBTI studies, or how can we take over the world?
So what do I think about it? I think that there should be some liberty and freedom, but I think also that there are very necessary things and necessary interventions that need to be made. I think what I sort of like to think about is to think about all the spaces where we don't see Roma queer people, and ask ourselves why. I think that's a good reason, like a good step to take, but this is very personal. I have observed throughout my years many occasions and ranted about it in many places, on my MA thesis, on my now in my PhD as well, that I think that the queer question, the LGBT question, should not be a separate question, because it is not a separate question. It should be treated within the mainstream, equally important as any other question that we're dealing with. So this is something that, whatever the question might be, but I think that that is a good step to take, like as a first step, and then sort of like take it from there. Yeah. Because these occasions, like this beautiful special issue, it is many years of very hard work of very different people in making. So.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And just 1-2 sentences maybe to respond to your question as well. Like when we started our movement as a Romani LGBTI movement, we didn't know the terms. We haven't any words. So now we are, very easily talking about yes, Romani LGBTI movement and Romani LGBTI intersectionality, and we're operating with these frameworks and concepts. But when we met in 2014-15, we had no idea what we start, because nobody was kind of warning us or just give some guidelines like what we have to do. And through the way we had a lot of, we thought that they are alliances. It's turned out that they are not. So we met many people, we became kind of alliances with them, friends. Some of them, they just turned back. and it is a learning process. It's still a learning process. And what is really upsetting me and makes, you know, uncomfortable for me, like to reading back my thoughts without quotations or any kind of references, that is it is not fair to not only me. I try to be not egoistic, but to the other Romani people, and also for our communities, you know, especially when non-Romani people start to producing a lot of knowledge and projects on Romani LGBTI movement and issue, because previously it was very sexy to work on Romani women issues, and now this Romani LGBTI movement is a kind of new spice. And now a lot of projects are led by non-Romani people. They claiming, okay, that I'm also queer, I'm also whatever. And that, I mean, if someone is belonging in one particular identity to our communities, doesn't legitimize the leadership and taking the leadership from us and the visibility, because this is a kind of not really fair. This is really shaping the future, not only our future, but of the next generation's future. We started something, but we had no idea what we started in that time. We just didn't see ourselves in the movement, and we started to questioning the status quo. And that's why we are here now. So I don't know what will be the future. Hopefully, I will work once in a very famous university, will be a professor, assistant director, whatever, but that will never happen because I'm a gypsy gay. So this is, you know, also power relations. If I wouldn't be a Roma and maybe gay, so with this knowledge and documents of papers, I would be maybe working on, I don't know, Oxford, you know, this is different.
Thank you. Thank you. I am honored and would like to congratulate. And I also would like to apologize as a human rights defender for so many years and not highlighting this issue at the level it needed to be done, and to be there to support you as a human rights defenders. So I have two questions.
This one cannot be here. No.
Thank you. The struggle you are facing as gay, Roma gay, is it the same struggle or the struggle for Roma lesbians or worse? Because I know during my time in the parliament, I was also in the subcommittees and working very close to ILGA network and also with the socialist group Rainbow, something I don't remember. And what I could conclude there was that the gay movement was further on than the lesbian movement. And there wasn't too much, let's say very little cooperation between. Is it the same in your movement? And you did answer something of my question. How is the cooperation with the bigger organizations like ILGA? Do you have any representation there? Okay, good. So if you do have differences and inequalities, you have to make sure on your way to further for the future to be equal with the lesbian, yeah, it's a demand, yeah.
I think, if I may, I think it is a very important aspect, and it is shown throughout the history of the lesbian and gay liberation movements that there has always been a split, and that there has always been, how do you say it, that as male identified, male passing, cis men, white passing, and so on and so on, I get a lot of privilege from it. And it is not the same. It is not the same being a lesbian. It is not the same being a trans Roma person. It is not the same being an intersex person. But I think that for me personally, I think that as I'm getting older, that I'm personally seeing more collaboration in terms of the connections that I personally make. I do not talk about the movement in general, because I do not know how much each of us collaborates with each other. But I think that it's a very good point and a very valid point that you make.
Thank you very much for your honorable words. I just really highly appreciate. I almost split my water when you said your words. So really, thank you so much. And just a few words, if I may. So basically, before we start this discussion, I said to Marina and for my other friends, like, I shouldn't sit in this chair at the moment because I'm sitting here and I had access to this work because of my gender identity, because I'm a cis male, and I had access to this kind of power, even though, you know, I'm gay, I'm a Roma gay, but I have more privileges as a Romani transgender person or a Romani lesbian. And not because they don't want to be visible, because I'm also, as I'm sitting here, I'm oppressing my sisters, my transgender sisters, and my Romani lesbian sisters as well, because of my identities. Even though I'm recognizing it, it's not enough. Recognition is not enough. I shouldn't be sit here. In my place should be sitting now somewhere. But because I had power, some power to produce this, I am here. But I hope it will be changed. I really hope it will be changed. And just one more word of cooperation of international level. ILGA Europe recognized us in 2017, I guess. So we are constantly cooperating with them, and they are inviting us, and we're giving our knowledge and representation. And also Council of Europe, they are very open and also Open Society Foundation. So it was a very, very long way, and they are open. So, you know, we are learning from each other. Of course, we cannot just go to the door with tanks or whatever, you know. We have to learn. Yes, let's say this.
Very good.
Yeah, so while you were talking, yeah, you know me, I'm getting emotional. And this is because whatever you are saying is just cutting into my lungs, you know, into my heart. And Audre Lorde has, who is a Black lesbian and feminist and writer, she has a quote that is like, it's always in my mind, you know, when I'm listening to Roma LGBTQ communities. And she's saying that, which I would like to rephrase a bit. I'm not free while any LGBTQ is unfree, even when their shapeless are very different from my own. And I do feel, and even though I don't belong to the LGBTQ community, I think that we will not be free until you are also not free. So yeah, I just would like to thank you for your endless effort and work that you are putting not into this journal, because I think this is just a small physical object, you know, a manifestation that you put together, but your whole work and your existence as well, because you are the resistance, I would say. Yeah, we had just the Romani Resistance Day in May 16. So for me, today, you are the resistance. So thank you so much.
It was the International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Lesbophobia. Good week, good celebration.
It's a good week.
Congratulations from me too on publishing the issue. I was wondering, how do you think that we in academia can use alternative ways of knowledge production to reach the mainstream and to bring these issues to a wider audience? So in other words, how can we use something other than the master's tools to take down the master's house, to invoke another Black American feminist?
No, you.
I think that's a very difficult question. I do not have the answer to that question. I just try. And I think that maybe in 20, 30 years time, I will maybe know. but I think it's a lot of trying.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot also really respond to this question, but maybe today I just a little bit recognized when I was there up and I just recognized like I getting older and the audience is getting younger and younger, and somehow I just realized that people are recognizing me, which means that they're recognizing my work as well and our efforts and work. It is scary, but what to do? I mean, we are shaping. We are shaping the social science. We are shaping the society. We don't want to shape. I mean, you know, we are a Roma. I mean, we are Roma. So if you're having a PhD and you are a Roma person, whatever you say, you became politicized. You are a political object. At the moment, I'm now a kind of political object here because, you know, talking about social science, even though I'm not talking on politics, but politics will use as a political debate. Anyway, but so what I want to say, like, and very much connecting to Arman, like it is scary that now it is subconsciously, I know that we are part of the they-her history of Romani knowledge production, and we cannot deny it because we are very few. And I know that this kind of knowledge production which we are doing is shaping the future society. And here is one of our greatest hero as well, who was in 1971 in the Romani Congress. And this is, you know, and we never thought that we will meet with them, or with Soraya Post, who is, you know, a legend as well. I mean, this is how we're shaping and working and moving forward.
We give you all our strength.
Thank you.
Okay.
You gave already. And honestly, if you, both of you, or the elderlies would not shape the future and not show, you know, the strength and resilience, we wouldn't sit here. So this is your work as well. This is the result. This is that we have now talking about Romani LGBTI issues. It is the elderlies' results as well, because in that time there were different issues. I'm not telling that they weren't addressed, the Romani LGBTI issues. Mostly wasn't on the spot, but there was some who were talking about that. But what, you know, the aim was different, and this is just, you know, the time is changing, and because of your work, we are here now. That's simple.
The later generation will say the same.
I would like to highlight one aspect in the relevance of this issue, but also in the relevance of your work. All of you know academia loves to produce content for academia. And to be honest, the perception of academic contents in major society or in social society is not that strong. But I am 100% sure that this issue, like just really having this booklet in hand with this LGBT Roma flag, has a very, very empowering symbol to people who suffer from anti-Gypsyistic stereotypes with its homogenization, which actually says there cannot be LGBTIQA+ persons in the Roma community because the Roma community is essentialized and reduced to specific aspects. What does that mean in the practical life? It means that either LGBTIQA+ Roma people neglect their Roma identity in the LGBT community, or they neglect their LGBT identity in the Roma community, because there is like no source, nothing that tells them that it's possible to be both and to have both together in hand. And I'm very, very sure that if we continue addressing the topic of LGBTIQA+ issues in this intersection with Roma identity, that we will have a huge opportunity to empower people who don't have role models, who don't have the possibility to get told that they are good as they are, that they are normal. And I think that this is a huge responsibility of academia and scholarship to produce such a knowledge that that can then be brought into major society. And that's why, once again, I would like to thank you that you bring this topic up on the at the table and that we are discussing it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Silas, for your comments. But Isaac just joined to us. You know, the time differences. He's joining from UK. And if you allowed me, I would give him the floor for 3-5 minutes, and after we continue the discussion. Or do we have more time after Isaac?
Yeah, I think after Isaac, because I could see some hands.
Okay, so Isaac, are you here with us?
Can you? Yes, to set on his video.
Yes, Dezso.
Okay, hi. So we are in the middle of discussion, but thanks for joining us. So what I propose that it would be grateful if you could just summarize in 3-5 minutes your article, and after we are going back to the discussion. Some of the participants already has some question, and I asked them to keep it, and after just continuing. Is it okay for you?
Yes, of course.
So I just introduce in a few minutes, in few sentences. So Isaac Blake is a proud gay Romani gypsy and has worked as a professional dancer and choreographer. He is currently executive director of Romani Culture and Arts Company in Cardiff, UK, which is supported by various of major funders and government departments. And then please, Isaac, introduce your article. Thanks.
Thank you, Dezso. Well, first of all, thank you, honored guests, for inviting me to tonight's event. It is certainly an honor and a privilege. I certainly never thought in my wildest dreams that growing up as a gypsy traveller on the sites in the UK that I'd ever come to a conference and be able to celebrate my Romani identity and also my LGBT identity. So thank you for that opportunity. I was invited to give an article about myself and my upbringing here in the UK, and the work related to the NGO that I set up. I set up a non-governmental organization in 2009, and I work as the charity director for the NGO, and it works across the UK and beyond. We do multiple projects. We're actually a community charity, so that means we have members of the community on our governing body. We have members of the community as workers, and we have a freelance team of academics on an international level that work with the charity. We also have a team of community champions, which is our volunteer program. And through the years of working at this old charity, and people, I've never hidden my sexuality. People knew, my close friends knew that I was LGBT. We started to see more Roma LGBT coming towards the organization, and they were asking for more visibility within our programming. And as a charity, we work in the arts and culture field, so we do multiple programs, and we had organized international symposiums for the past 7 years. And our LGBT Roma were saying, well, we would like more visibility. So as a proud gay Romani gypsy myself, I wanted to make sure that there was space on our programming. So my colleague Christine Virginia Lee attended multiple events across Europe representing the organization. And Christine, who is a heart of gold, Christine commented that we would have a LGBT symposium here in the UK. So we organised the first UK International Gypsy, Roma and Traveller LGBT symposium at the Welsh Government, at the Welsh Parliament. And after that event, we also organised many different activities, focus groups, and we also managed to receive a small bit of funding from the European Roma Institute for Art and Culture, ERIAC, to produce an LGBT queer Roma archive. And I'm really pleased that it's an authentic archive, as the people working on the archive were from the Roma community and identified as LGBT. We had the amazing Dr. Daniel Baker with the amazing Christine Virginia Lee carrying out the interviews on an international level, usually via Zoom. And we produced, we had about 20 stories, and we only had 3 months to complete the actual project, but we have that as a pride in place now on our charity website. So if you click onto the Romani Cultural Arts Company website, you will see that there's an archive section for LGBT Roma, which is fantastic. And we also have a people's page, which we celebrate the colourful, vibrant community in all shapes and all sizes. And I'm really pleased to say that members of our LGBT Roma are actually on our people's page, again, putting and giving a space for LGBT Roma at the highest level of our organisation, and making it clear and proud that we are here for all members of our community, and certainly our LGBT queer Roma community. Yeah, so that's a little bit of some of the text that I was talking about within my article. I did have to be a little bit personal, because I was talking about my own upbringing and some of the challenges and opportunities, and then obviously finishing off with the work at the RCAC. So I do invite people later during this discussion for any questions you may have, and I'm happy to help and support where I can. But first of all, thank you very much, Dezso, for the opportunity for me to tell my story, and of course the amazing work that the LGBT Roma people have done. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Isaac. Martin, how many minutes we have more?
We can collect the last comments and questions, because some people raised their hands.
But just one more, because Laura, and maybe we forgot about Justyna as well. Maybe they would like to respond as well. Laura, are you here still?
Hi. My intervention might be interpreted as using my power as a Romani heterosexual woman of 40 years of activism, but I take the risk of being perceived like that. I just wanted to say that it's a blessing to be alive and to be part of such an event. And it's a blessing to see how a Romani movement, which 20 years ago wouldn't allow Romani lesbians and gay to sit at the same table with them. Now it's a change of powers. You are at the table and we listen to you. So for me, it's kind of a dream come true to be in this situation now, and to be able to say that as a Romani movement, we didn't reproduce the same mistakes that other social movements done. And using my power as an old Romani feminist woman, I just wanted to say that many of us stood 15-20 years ago with the price of our how to say, being accepted by the others. Many of us who stood up for feminists, for gay and lesbians, we didn't know about the other denominations, were isolated in that time and criticized because we deconstruct the Romani movement, we deconstruct the Romani identity, we deconstruct everything, and we kind of try to dissolve the Romani movement and dissolve and divide everybody. So I just want to take a big bow in front of you guys that I lived a life to see this happening today. So thank you very much. And also, I would like to have sometimes a discussion about how we contributed to what is today, and also how we reconstruct through the efforts you've done in this critical with the Romani Studies Journal, that we reconstruct our Romani identity, composed Romani identity, intersectional Romani identity, in a way than other social movements have not done it before. So thank you very much, and I'm blessed.
I can take, like, Laura, I'm sorry, I'm very sorry, I forgot that you are online and we had many questions, and please respond to the previous one if you would like to, because I think it's not fair to just vanishing you there in the background.
It's okay, no problem. I agree with what Emilia just said. I also feel the same, that, you know, things that were considered to be impossible decades ago now are becoming real, they're becoming true. In these meetings we had with the administrators, Roma women were sitting, you know, in the upper place, and the administrators were sitting down and listening. So this type of semiotic inversion, as you know, I really care a lot about science. Science. No, when we resignify words, when we resignify strategies, alliances, of course, it's true, there are fake alliances. Somebody said there are fake alliances. It's true. But I think the possibility of real alliances are there, and they have to be done with the intelligence, the collective intelligence, and the respect for which if I am not disabled, I cannot talk for the disabled. If I am not a woman, I cannot talk for the women. If I am not Roma, I cannot talk for the Roma. If I am not an object of anti-Ziganism, I cannot talk about anti-Ziganism. So there is a commandment, a feminist commandment that says, you know, always start from yourself. So who are you? So I am bisexual. I would never speak for the lesbians, for example, who for sure have a greater discrimination compared to bisexual women. I wouldn't speak for the transsexuals. I am a gypsy. Yes, I became a gypsy when I was 16, but I'm not a Roma. I'm a no-Roma gypsy, so I cannot speak for the Roma women. I can speak for women. I can speak about violence. I can speak about certain topics. I've been object of anti-Ziganism when I was living in camper caravan, and when I was moving from one place to another place. So I know what is that, and I know poverty. I know what it means to steal food from a supermarket. And so I can talk for some aspects of the problems, in the intersectional problems. And I let other people to talk about their part of the problem. So I think this is good for alliances. This is honest, and this is good for alliances. We cannot replace each other. We are unique, our experience is unique, and alliances can be done only on the basis of truth. If we don't have an authentic relationship, nothing can work. Also politically cannot work. I believe a lot in the culture and the politics of friendship. And I believe that in this COVID era, which is not finished, there will be other viruses, other stuff. In this war era, in this climate change era, scarcity, etc., I think we have to connect more our ties in person, to create occasions to cultivate our friendship. It doesn't mean that I have to be friends with everybody, but there are ties that need to be strengthened. as Features Capra says, all organisms that can succeed in life are those organisms that relate strongly with each other. Plants, bacteria, whatever it is, humans. So we need to connect more at a deeper level where the body is part of the connection. So it's great to be able to talk to each other online and talk about critical Romani studies and our works, etc. But I think we should find a way to spend time together as a community of scholars. I think that could be next step, probably. It's just a proposal. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. One last round, Martin. Do we have
because some people really wanted to contribute. Yeah, let's collect all the questions briefly and comments. You also had in the first line.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on everything what was said before. During the years, I saw a lot of LGBTQI movements, Roma movements in different countries, and unfortunately, I didn't have access to the data. Who was the founding members and who is on the grassroots of it? And it's great to know that you are around us, and it's a kind of pleasure to be listening you and your work, what you have been done. And I was also listening to the comments, and it just stuck in my mind one comment which was regarding representation, and that LGBTQI people have to justify that they are normal. I mean, no one have to justify it, and I can make these parallels to Roma people. While working with cultural heritage studies, I'm already tired to read these narratives that Roma were just victims. Okay, we were, and it's obvious because there was Holocaust, genocide. We were persecuted for centuries, and it is a part of our identity. It's constructed our identity as well. But why we are not talking more about people in power? Why we are not talking about positive cases? And such an issue that you created is a great example of it. And the project that Isaac was talking, it's a great project that have to be spread. And also I wanted to reflect about your point. You told about that people do not quote your words. It's a real issue, and it should be solved because no one can steal from you, and no one should, and you have the right for your own words. And thank you so much for today's presentation.
Well, I will say that this is very impressive. I'm very impressed by the work you have done. But I know that in many grassroots Roma organizations, they discuss the same problem as we do today, and they don't read this. So do you have a special strategy how to work among the grassroots Roma organizations and the Roma community in general to get acceptance for the aims you are working for?
Should we respond now? Or?
Yeah, let's go to everything and then wrap up.
And please, can you reflect on the question which you got before the last presentation? Because I had the same kind of thoughts, and can you just give, if you can take some time to reflect that?
It would be nice if you could phrase your question.
Yeah,
as
so basically, well, I will not be able to rephrase it as good as but the question about like dealing with being part of the Roma identity, but also being part of the LGBT community, and not feeling part of any of these communities, and dealing with issues, family issues, and isolation from everyone and everywhere, you know. And what we also, how do we help these young people with this, who maybe are not having this the possibility to read this kind of books, you know, how can we help? How can we make help in this important question? Thank you.
So, okay.
Hello, I'm very, very happy to meet you because you are a real role model, not only for Roma, for all people who have to struggle in this issue. And I only say, I quote my friend from Romania, see me as the person I am.
Thank you very much. I just, in 3 sentences, I would like to reflect to the questions. So before I stepped into academia, mostly I worked on grassroots level, working on Romani issues. Basically, I don't like this word like Romani issues, but because it's also reconstruction anyway. But also, I was working or cooperated very much with LGBTI organizations and challenged both society, let's say. So in LGBTI organizations, I brought the issues of Romani issues and LGBTI intersectional issues. And in the Romani community, I usually address the issues of LGBTI issues. So, but there are, as we're developing, we are living places and spaces, and not always I personally can go back to the grassroots level because I achieved a kind of different social position level, which is very, very heavy to link back sometimes for me. I mean, I can send message or talk about intersectional anti-Gypsyism, LGBTI phobia on grassroots level, but because I'm whitewashed already a bit because of academia, my frames and works maybe not really matching and fitting. I do my best in activism, but because of this sophisticated academic language, it is not very useful sometimes in the grassroots level. I mean, we're trying. In my case at least, but yeah, I left my place on the grassroots level, but we started there, and if somehow someone outreaching, I'm always willing to go there and happy to work on the issues on grassroots level as well. But it is a double work, you know. I mean, it's like being an activist and being an academic. It is a controversial position sometimes for me because my institution is an academic institution which requests from the knowledge production, but also I know that I'm responsible for my communities and I have to go back sometimes there as well. But it is a social mobility for me, and this is difficult. It's very difficult, and yeah.
I sort of think that like one of the crucial things that I notice is the lack of, it's great we have this space, I want more space and I want to take it and I want others to be able to take it because there are others who are as hungry as me but do not have the opportunity. And not everyone succeeds in years and years of being said that you don't belong. So we really need to create a very big understanding, both on an activist level and an academic level, that on an academic level, I can say maybe there are 10 people who succeeded. On an activist level, that it's bigger because the movement is almost in every of the countries throughout Europe, and I don't know like about the world context, but I'm sort of thinking that spaces for support, education, additional education in spaces where there are majoritarian subjects on how to deal with Romani LGBT people is very important. because we do not get treated well within queer communities either. We get exoticized, we get discriminated against. Many of the anti-gypsist stereotypes are reproduced, but also then added to the level of sexuality, the level of gender expression, the level of social class, and so on and so forth. Like my parents were not able to be in a space to speak like this, and I am. And I think that, you know, like here we, I don't know, like I'm very conflicted. Can I speak about the grassroots level?
We
If
born
it
there,
lives
so
inside of us all, still to a certain extent. I think that we can, but I think we need to be careful.
Yeah.
Because in the end, I do not represent every queer Roma gay man.
Yeah.
And that is the most important thing for us all to remember, I think.
Yes, I totally agree with you, because we cannot really speak on that where we are not that much involved because of the time changes, and also just the sense of belonging. Just a very funny sentence, like some non-Romani scholars always telling like they have 20 years of work experiences on Roma, and I always would say like I have a 38 years of being experience of Roma. So what are the differences? You know, we born there, so in its society, and I just, because of the time, I would give maybe the last words to Laura and Justyna and Isaac. Okay, a short.
They want to say, Justyna already left.
Okay, then Laura, your closing remarks, and Isaac, and then we should close because it's uncomfortable taking the space from the Romani resistance book lunch.
No, absolutely, absolutely. As a conclusive remark, I would repeat something that you just said, the two of you just said, that we cannot speak for all, no? We can start for ourselves, as I also underlined before. If our words get misunderstood, if our words get copied, what I think Dezso was saying, right? If somebody copied your work, quoted without credits your work, I'm not a fan of prosecutors, legal issues, stuff like that. But in these cases, I think not for in a punitive way, but I think it should be reminded to the person or the persons who appropriated your work and didn't quote. They should be reminded of the fact they made a mistake. Okay, so I would, why not to send a letter from a lawyer, and then I also think in some cases there are honest misunderstanding. Some quotation that has lost quotation marks. But if you see, not a mistake, it happened to me with one of my students. She quoted my book without putting the quotation mark. I don't care, obviously. But if you see there is something systematic about that, if there is somebody copying your work in a systematic way, appropriating your work willingly, I think you should send some legal advice and at least ask for public excuses. If you do something wrong, knowingly or unknowingly, willingly or unwillingly, then you should ask for excuses. And then I think this is a good way for starting conflict resolution in our community and in nearby communities, right? It's not like letting somebody stepping over you that the relationship will get better. The relationship will get worse. So this is not acceptable, and there are solutions. that doesn't mean that you have to bring this person to a trial, an endless trial for copyrights, or, you know, I don't even believe in copyrights, but I believe in recognition of each other's work. And that should be pointed out, that we are for copyleft, that we are for open access, that, you know, we want our work to circulate. So I let my student to copy my books because I really don't care about copyrights. But it has to be quoted with credit. You know, that's a matter of honesty, and it's a matter of relationship. So I would point that out if it were you, Dezso. And for the impression I have of you as a great person when we met in Budapest with Vera Kurtic and other LGBT Roma people, I think you are surely able to do it in a sweet and non-abrasive way. So I would encourage you to, you know, stand for your right, or we can do it together as critical Romani studies, to write a letter to this person who is misusing or using without credit your work. So we can do it. I would be happy to do it as a person, also personally. Okay.
Thank you very much, Laura. Thank you so much. Isaac?
Thank you, Dezso. As we know, Romani and traveler communities are the most disadvantaged and least engaged in the minority ethnic group in the complex ethnic and cultural mosaic of modern European identities, as we occupy a space at the intersection of race-biased, class conflict, ethnic discrimination, cultural appropriation, marginalization, social exclusion that is unique among minority ethnic groups. The intersectionality of anti-Gypsyism and discrimination experienced by LGBTQ+ Roma and traveler people profoundly compounds their experience of marginalization and exclusion to a degree that can only be understood by other Black, Asian, minority ethnic LGBT communities. I'm really pleased to say in the United Kingdom, we've actually started a campaign to support the NGO sector. We are bringing NGOs together to see how we can have more visibility of LGBT, Roma and travellers across the board. And this is at early stages at this moment, but we're hoping to have an LGBT, Roma and traveller conference next month in the UK. It should be an online event. The purpose of it is to better support and build confidence and capacity within the NGO sector to have the confidence to have more visibility for LGBT, Roma and travellers. So it's very exciting times, and it would be great if you were able to join us, Dezso, because I think you're absolutely amazing, brother.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all of you, and with this note, keep resilient, keep resistant, and read our work and be our alliance.